Okay, part two, here we go. This is rounds 13 through 24. First quote here: "Your wife doesn't love you," said Gatsby. "She never loved you. She loves me. She never loved you. Do you hear? She only married you because I was poor and she was tired of waiting for me. It was a terrible mistake, but in her heart, she never loved anyone except me." Now, again, it may seem like Gatsby is being the aggressor here. He's winning. He's telling Tom outright that his wife is in love with him. But who should be saying all of this? Probably Daisy. And the fact that she's not, and the fact that she's just kind of sitting there terrified, if you read carefully, Daisy is getting more and more afraid as this fight continues, says something. She's not speaking up and saying this to her husband, but Gatsby is. Also, Gatsby makes a huge error here. He slips up and he reveals that he was once poor. He says, "I was poor and she didn't want to wait for me." So he admits to being new money. He admits to not being in the same social class as the rest of them. So this illusion of the great Gatsby is sort of beginning to shatter. 14. "What's been going on? I want to hear all about it." That's what Tom says. "I told you what's been going on," said Gatsby. "Going on for 5 years, and you didn't know." Tom turned to Daisy sharply. "You've been seeing this fellow for 5 years?" "Not seeing," said Gatsby. "No, we couldn't meet. But both of us loved each other all that time, old sport, and you didn't know. I used to laugh sometimes." But there was no laughter in his eyes. "To think that you didn't know." This round goes to Tom. So Gatsby's bragging about the affair and says that they've been dating for 5 years. Now, first of all, this isn't true, and he's actually forced to admit that. Um, so Tom says, "You've been dating this guy for 5 years," and Gatsby's like, "Well, no, we haven't really been dating, but we've been in love all that time." But it also says here too that it says that Gatsby says, "Oh, I used to laugh thinking that you didn't know about our affair." But when he says that, Nick tells us, "But there was no laughter in his eyes." So he isn't being smug, really. He's actually quite nervous and he's not really confident about anything that he's saying. And Tom is starting to pick up on that vibe, especially because of Daisy's reaction, too. Round 15. "I'll be damned if I see how you got within a mile of her unless you brought the groceries to the back door." Very clear blow to Gatsby here. So the winner is Tom. It's a major insult and a reminder of his social status and the idea that he was poor. "You're revolting," said Daisy. Gatsby walked over and stood beside her. "Daisy, that's all over now," he said earnestly. "It doesn't matter anymore. Just tell him the truth, that you never loved him, and it's all wiped out forever." She looked at him blindly. "Why, how could I love him? Possibly? You never loved him." She hesitated. This round is unclear. You could have written down Gatsby as the winner and justified it because she does say to her husband, "You're revolting," and Gatsby walks over and literally is standing next to her. So it seems like they're on the same side with him physically next to her. However, she can't quite say what Gatsby wants her to say, which is, "I never loved you, Tom." She can't say it, that she never loved him, and she hesitates. So you might say that the round actually goes to Tom because Gatsby is forcing her to say it and she is hesitating before she says it. And then finally, round 17, she does get the words out. "I never loved him," she said with perceptible reluctance. So she's reluctant to say it. She doesn't want to say it, and it's clear to see that. "Not at Capiolani?" demanded Tom suddenly. "No. Not that day I carried you down from the punch bowl to keep your shoes dry." There was a husky tenderness in his voice, in his tone. "Daisy, please don't." Her voice was cold, but the rancor was gone from it. This round clearly goes to Tom. So although Daisy finally says what Gatsby wants her to say, that she never loved Tom, it's clear she's only saying it because she's on the spot and she's being made to. Tom then sort of softly reminds her of all these fond memories that they had at the punch bowl and at Capiolani and all those things I did for you. So the rancor from Daisy's voice, so even though she's being cold towards Tom, the rancor or the anger in her voice towards Tom is gone. She doesn't have that same courage and guts anymore that she had in the beginning of the chapter where she was kissing Gatsby anytime Tom left the room. Okay, round 18. Oh, you want too much, she cried to Gatsby. I love you now. Isn't that enough? I can't help what's past. She began to sob helplessly. I did love him once, but I loved you too. Gatsby's eyes opened and closed. You loved me too? He repeated. This round goes to Tom. Daisy says that she loved them both, basically, and this is totally unacceptable to Gatsby, a huge blow. He was pining for her and devoted to her alone for 5 years straight, all that time, and he believed that she was devoted to him also, even though she married somebody else. He was, in his mind, it was just because she couldn't stick around for him and he was too poor. But the fact that she can't say that she never loved Tom, and she says, well, I kind of loved you both, that is just a huge blow to Gatsby, so Tom wins that round. Round 19, you don't understand, said Gatsby with a touch of panic. You're not going to take care of her anymore. I'm not? Tom opened his eyes wide and laughed. He could afford to control himself now. Tom is the winner, and he's really subsequently the winner of the rest of the rounds here, because Gatsby is panicked. He's panicking. You're not going to take her away. And Tom is laughing. He's so confident and he's so sure that Daisy is not going to leave him that he's laughing in Gatsby's face. He could afford to control himself. He's not angry anymore. He knows that Daisy's never going to leave him. She's not leaving me. Tom's words suddenly leaned down over Gatsby, certainly not for a common swindler who'd have to steal the ring he put on her finger. Tom wins that. He's continuing to expose Gatsby as a thief. Round 21. Who are you anyhow? Broke out Tom. You're one of that bunch that hangs around with Meyer Wolfsheim. That much I happen to know. I've made a little investigation into your affairs, and I'll carry it further tomorrow. I found out what your drugstores were. He turned to us and spoke rapidly. He and this Wolfsheim bought up a lot of chain side street drugstores here and in Chicago and sold grain alcohol over the counter. That's one of his little stunts. I picked him for a bootlegger the first time I saw him, and I wasn't far wrong. Again, he's exposing him. He's shattering this illusion of the Great Gatsby. Now we know where Gatsby got his wealth, and it's not from a good place. He doesn't have this mystery shrouding him anymore. We know that he's just a bootlegger and a thief, really. Round 22, he continues to expose him. That drugstore business was just small change, continued Tom slowly. I glanced at Daisy, who was staring terrified between Gatsby and her husband. Then I turned back to Gatsby and was startled at his expression. He looked, and this was said in all contempt for the babbled slander of his garden, as if he had killed a man. So the winner is obviously Tom, not only because he's continuing to expose Gatsby, but he's effectively changing others' opinions of him. Nick, for the first time in this book, sees something sinister in Gatsby. He looks at Gatsby's face and he says he looked like he could have possibly killed a person. And Daisy is sitting there terrified as well. So he's beginning to have an effect on people's opinions of this man. Round 23, the voice begged again to go. Please, Tom, I can't stand this anymore. Her frightened eyes told that whatever intentions, whatever courage she had had, were definitely gone. Tom wins this. Daisy is begging Tom, her husband, to take her home. Please, Tom, let's leave. Let's get out of here. I can't stand this anymore. So she lost all of her courage. Whatever her intentions were that day for this whole kind of party that they had all together, we know what Gatsby's intentions were, for her to tell Tom she was leaving him. Daisy, she has lost all of her courage, and she's begging Tom to take her home. And here is the knockout punch. Tom says, "You two start on home, Daisy," said Tom, "in Mr. Gatsby's car." So Tom is so confident that his wife is not going to leave him, he sends them home together. And he remarks, "Go on. I think he knows that this little flirtation is over." So he's kind of rubbing it in Gatsby's face, like, go ahead, you want to spend some time with Daisy? Go ahead, take my car. You two start on home together. So Tom has won, and everybody in the room knows it. Thanks for watching.